Hello everyone, welcome to the today's live stream and thank you for the joining. So let me share my screen. I hope my screen is visible. So let's continue. Uh, Hello everyone, welcome. Let's dive into Git and GitHub. But first, let's start by understanding why we need these tools in the first place. So we all have been in situations where we start a project. Uh, I hope my screen is visible. Wait a minute, guys. So yeah, I think it is visible. Okay, we all have been in situations where we start a project with a good idea of what we want to do, but then we find ourselves with multiple versions, iterations, and maybe even needing to collaborate with others. Things get messy quickly without the right tools. So wait a minute. Yeah, I think my screen is visible now. Yeah, thank you so much for the confirmation. So, yeah, managing code in projects with multiple contributors can lead to conflicts, different file versions, and confusion over changes. One of the best solutions to these problems is using it with GitHub to create a structured and collaborative workflow. So, what is Git? I want your answers. So, what exactly is Git? So, what exactly is Git? Git is a open source distributed version control system designed for speed and efficiency. It helps developers track changes to their code, work on different features in parallel, and collaborate with creating conflicts. The beauty of Git is that everything happens locally on your mission first. So you don't need to rely on the network for basic tasks. So one of the main advantages of Git is that you don't need a network for most operations. Tasks like performing diffs, viewing file history, and committing changes and merging branches all happens locally. This means you can work faster and more efficiently. So Git was created by Linus Torvalds, the same person who developed the Linux kernel. It's been tested on massive open source projects like Linux, and it's backed by a huge open source community. Git also avoids issues like .svn directories in your project folders, and you have full independence to manage your repositories. So, as I said, Git is an open source distributed version control system designed for speed and efficiency. So, to get started with Git, you can head over to gitscm.com/downloads and download Git for your platform. You will use the command line interface for this session, but you can also use Git GUIs or editor extensions if you prefer. So once you install Git, the first thing you will want to do is configure your username and email. You can do this by running the following commands in your terminal. Uh, dollar sign after Git space config // global user dot name, your name. So I will display it on the screen. So after that, as I already mentioned that Git is an open source distributed version control system designed for speed and efficiency, and it is also an open source but distributed version control system designed for speed and efficiency. Yeah, you can observe the images here. So let me continue. Now let's look at some essential Git commands to initialize a new repository. You will use Git space init. This creates a .git directory that tracks your project's history. After that, you can stage files using git add, commit changes using git commit, and check the status of your working directory using git status. So it is the no network is needed for performing a diff, viewing file history, committing changes, merging branches, obtaining any other revision of a file, switching branches. Almost everything is local. So it also allows you to work on multiple features or bug fixes simultaneously using branches. Branching is one of the most powerful features in Git, and it helps you keep different lines of the development separate. For example, you might work on a future branch while the main branch remains stable, and no network needed for most tasks like branching and merging. So and no .svn directories is needed, and it is also independent. So I have already discussed the installation of Git. So yeah, you can run the following commands for setting up the Git. As I already mentioned, uh, dollar git config / global user dot name, and you have to enter your name. Same continues with your email ID. So let's dive in. You can do these things in the Git, like creating new repository and committing and branching and merging and inspection, cloning a repo, updating. So let's dive in for creating new repository, committing, branching, merging, inspection, creating a repo, on updating. So you can see the different type of slides in the visuals. So branches, merge them, view histories, and more without needing to connect to a server. Everything happens on your machine, which makes the workflow faster. Now let's move on to GitHub. Uh, let's see some Git commands before moving to GitHub. So you can use git int to initialize for creating new repository, and you can see here, and git status for committing, and you can see the branch name and the staging area on the slide, and you can add git uh, for committing. You can add a file to the git by writing git space add, and you have to enter your file name. So you can see the staging area on the slide. So this is the example that you are looking on the slide. So after that, yeah, git space commit. To commit the message, we have to enter this command, and git space reset. To undo add, we have to see the changes tagged and changes unstacked on the slide on the given example. And there are two types: git reset soft head and git reset hard head. It is soft head is used to undo a comment, commit, and redo, and hard head is used to rewind the branch to get rid of last three commits. I have given you the uh, referral links. You can refer to that links for more information. And git space rm, and you have to enter your file name. It will remove a file from the repository as expected. You will need to commit the change, and git space mb, and you have to enter your file name. It will move or rename a file from the repository as expected. You will need a commit to the change. And you can see git space branch, and you have to enter your branch name for a new branch. If you want list of branches, you have to live with just a branch. And to switch the branch, you have to git space checkout, and you have to enter your branch name. And you can see the branch list here, and new branch dev and switch branch examples on the screen. So you have to use git merge, and you have to give your branch name. It generally actually it is used to merge the branches. You can see the branch merge on the screen. So git space log, use for graph, decorate, abreu, commit all, and pretty equal on online. You can use you can able to use all these commands. And slash dot git config, it is also used for inspection. In case you have to inspect, you have to use these commands. And git k, it is also used for inspection. In cloning a repository, you have to use GitHub. So yeah, let's move on to GitHub. So GitHub is a cloud-based platform that hosts Git repositories and make collaboration easier. By pushing your repository to GitHub, you can collaborate with team members, track issues, and manage projects anywhere. Now, let's move to next slide. So we have how to create an account in GitHub. If you don't if you don't already have an account, already have a GitHub account, you can create one at github.com. Once you have set up your account, you can push your local repositories to GitHub and start collaborating with others. Add SSH key. So adding an SSH key to securely communicate with GitHub, you will want to add an SSH key to your account. This allows you to push and pull changes without needing to enter a password every time. So let me show you how cloning a repository and GitHub basics. Let's show you how to clone a GitHub repository. Once you have found a repository you want to work on, back to Git. So uh, once you have made changes to a repository, you can create a pull request. This allows you to propose your changes, and the repository maintainer can review and merge them into the main code base. And git pull and git push, these are the two commands. Yeah, once you have made changes to your repository, you have to create a pull request. This allows you to propose your changes, and the repository maintainer can review and merge them into the main code base. And git ninja features. So yeah, I have told you about the git pull request also. So let's look at the git ninja features. You can see here markdown pages, gist hooks, service hooks. Yeah, markdown is for documentation and pages for hosting projects, and we use gist for sharing code snippets, and service hooks to trigger actions like continuous integration on commits. So may the force. Okay. So I think uh, I covered everything. If we go into the brief, so we are using Git and GitHub for a better workflow. So we have covered Git for version control and GitHub for collaboration. You have learned how to create repositories, work with branches, and use GitHub to host your code and collaborate with others. And so I have already told about Git. So you have got an idea that what is Git. So actually, Git is an open source distributed version control system that I already mentioned. So it's a fancy way of saying it helps you keep track of the changes you make to your files. It allows you to revert to a previous version if something goes wrong, and it lets you work on different features of a project simultaneously using something called branches. So one of the coolest things about Git is that it's super fast and efficient. Efficient. Almost everything happens locally on your computer. So you don't need to be connected to the internet for most operations. Whether it's committing changes, viewing file history, or switching between branches, it's all right. They are there at your fingertips. Now, Git was created by Linus Torvalds. the guy behind the Linux operating system. He needed a system that could handle contributions from hundreds of developers working on the same code base. And today, Git is used by millions of developers worldwide. Isn't it fantastic? So let's talk about some basic Git commands. I am just revising the session. I have covered the main points. Now I'm revising it for your understanding. You will be using these commands almost every day. Like I already mentioned, Git in init. So this creates. Let me go to that slide. So yeah, I actually mentioned that Git is an open source distributed version control system designed for speed and efficiency. So you can see the images here. Focus on these images. How the it will says that how the process will that almost everything is local. It will show you the process behind that. So yeah, he's the person that created the Git, and he's the uh, operating system, the father of operating system. And I already covered that how to install a Git. So after getting set up, I will uh, I'll explain this. So let's jump into some Git commands. So yeah, this is Git inti. So this creates a new Git repository. It is the first command you will run when starting a new project. Understand? It is a new Git repository, and it is the first command you will run when starting a new project. So let's go to the next slide. And yeah, I think it's Git status. Yeah, Git status. This lets you see the status of your working directory. It will let you see the state of working directory, showing which files are stacked, modified on track. That means it will let you see the state of your working directory, showing which files are tagged, modified, and or untracked. Now let me show you the GitHub repository and stage come changes. Yeah, git add. I think I think it's another one command. This stages files telling Git you want to include them in your next commit. The git add command will stack the files that will tell git that you want to include them in your next commit. So yeah, git commit. So this git commit, this saves the changes you have made along with a message that explains what you have done. The git commit command will save the changes you have made along with a message that explains what you have done. So wait a minute. Let's wait. We have to shift to the branching and merging. Yeah. So now let's talk about one of the Git's most powerful features, branches. A branch is an isolated environment where you can work on new features without affecting the main code. This way, multiple developers can work on different features without stepping on each other's toes. For example, if you're working on a website and want to add a new feature, you can create a separate branch, work on that feature, and then merge it back into the main branch when it's ready. Let's say you have been working on the main branch, but now you want to add a new feature. You'd create a new branch using the git branch command. switch to it and git checkout, and you have done, and you can merge it back with git merge. So yeah, I explained this all keywords: git merge and git log. Yeah, it's come under inspection. So I have completed the branching and merging now. Yeah. So okay, now let's dive deep into the actual GitHub. It's the revising, guys. So that's why. So okay, now that we have covered Git, let's talk about GitHub. GitHub is a cloud-based platform for hosting Git repositories. It's especially useful for collaborating with other developers on the same project. When you push your project to GitHub, you are making it accessible to others, whether it's your teammates, contributors, or the open source community. It's also where you can fork repositories, submit pull requests, and contribute to other projects. To start, I will need to create a GitHub account if you don't already have one. Once you have set up, you can clone repositories from GitHub or push down your own code there. So now let me explain about GitHub workflows. So I already tell you about how. Yeah. Now let's talk about collaboration on GitHub. One of the most common workflows is creating a pull request. This allows you to propose changes to a project, and the repository maintainer can review and merge your changes. If you are contributing to someone else's project, you would first fork their repository, make your changes in your fork, and then create a pull request to have your changes reviewed. So GitHub also has amazing features like Markdown for documentation and GitHub pages for project hosting and gits for sharing code snippets. So wait a minute, guys. ఒకసారి చూడరా ఎన్ని మినిట్స్ అయిందో. 30 minutes అయిందంటారా? 30 minutes అయింది. 45 minutes చెప్పాలి మీరు. మ్యూట్ పెట్టాను. వెయిట్ ఏ మినిట్ గైస్ అని. కాదు. రెండోసారి రిపీట్ చేశాను పీపీటీ. మళ్ళీ ఐఎమ్ జస్ట్ రివైజింగ్ అని చెప్పి మొత్తం అంతా రిపీట్ చేసాను. అయినా 30 minutes అయింది. మూడుసారి రిపీట్ చేస్తే ఏం బాగుంటుంది. సో ఎగ్జాంపుల్స్ ఏమన్నా తీసుకున్నట్టు గురించి. సో అంటే ఒక కంపెనీలో ఒక ఆర్గనైజేషన్లో కోడ్ ఉంది సంథింగ్, అది ఎలా పాస్ అవుతుంది గిట్ నుంచి, అది ఎలా అప్డేట్ అవుతుంది సంథింగ్. చార్ట్ జీపీని అడిగేస్తాను. So let's continue. Uh, Hello everyone, welcome. Let's dive into Git and Git. But first, let's start by understanding why we need these tools in the first place. you start a project with a good idea. Yeah, I think my space will now is using it with GitHub to create a structure and collaborative workflow system designed for speed and efficiency tasks. It's a directory that tracks your project system. After that, you can stage files using Git and commit changes using Git commit and check the status of your working directory using Git status. And about some basic commands, I am just revising the session.
అరే స్లైడ్స్ తర్వాత లేవురా అన్ని అయిపోయినాయి చాలా
I
దాకా
am just
చూడాలి కదరా నువ్వు ఎప్పటికప్పుడు చూసి అప్డేట్
add SSH key. So add to GitHub, you are making it accessible to others, whether it's your teammates, contributors, or the open source community. It's also where you can code repositories, submit pull requests, and contribute other projects. To start, I will need to create a GitHub account.
థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్ ఫర్ వెయిటింగ్ now let me I think my screen is not visible. Let me share my screen again. Yeah, I hope my screen is visible now. Can you please anyone confirm that my screen is visible? Yeah, thank you so much guys for your confirmation. Now let's continue. So before we dive in, let me share a personal insight. When I first started working on larger projects, I found myself constantly saving different versions of files like project B1, project final, and even project final. It was chaos. That's when I discovered Git and realized that's that it's like having an organized library for all my code changes. It's more messy file names. Git and GitHub changed the way I code, collaborate, and contribute to projects, both personally and professionally. I am excited to share this journey with you today because mastering Git opens up so many possibilities for version control and teamwork. Let's break it down a little more. Imagine you are writing a long essay. You write the first draft, then you make some edits and changes to improve it. But at some point, you realize that the second draft wasn't as good as the first, and uh, you want to go you want to go back with Git. With Git, you can easily track these different versions of your essay and switch back and forth without ever losing your work. So, but at some point, you will realize that the second draft wasn't as good as the first, and you want to go back. With Git, you can easily track these different versions of your essay and switch back and forth without ever losing your work. Yeah, not only that, but imagine that your friend wants to suggest some improvements. Git allows them to work on a separate copy of your essay, make the changes, and then merge those changes into your original work when you are both happy with the result. So to make this even clearer, think of this think of it this way. Without Git, if you wanted to see the changes, someone made to a file, you would need to compare two separate versions manually, which is time consuming and error prone. With Git, you can use commands like git diff to instantly see what's changed between versions. And let's not forget how fast it is. Since everything is local, you are not waiting for a server to respond or process your request. It's all on your mission, making it super quick to get things done. Let me walk through a typical Git workflow to show how this all fits together. You start by creating a repository using Git init. This sets up your project to track changes. Then you create a new file like index.html and stage it with git add. This tells Git, hey, I want to track this file. Next, you save your work using git commit. Think of this as taking a snapshot of your project at that moment. You can commit multiple times as you make progress, and each commit is like a bookmark in your project history. If something goes wrong, you can jump back to any previous commit and restore your project to that point. Now, one of my favorite features in Git is branching. Picture this: you will working on a big project, but suddenly you need to add a new feature. You don't want to mess up your existing code. You want do you so what do you do? You create a branch. This allows you to work on your few new features in isolation without affecting your main project. Once the feature is ready, you can merge it back into the main branch. And if something goes wrong during the development of your future, you can always switch back to main without losing any of your progress. So let me quickly touch on a common branching strategy. Many many teams use what's called the Git flow model. In this model, the main branch is always stable, and new features are developed in separate branches. And the feature is complete and fully tested, it's merged back into main. This approach keeps your project organized and ensures that the main branch is always in a good state. Let me show you an example of this branching strategy in action. So, why you use GitHub when Git can work just fine locally? Yeah, GitHub is the perfect platform for sharing your code with others. Whether you are working on a team or contributing to an open source project, GitHub lets you collaborate in real time, manage pull requests, and review code changes. It also allows others to fork your repository, suggest improvements, or use your project as a foundation for their own work. Not to mention, GitHub is a fantastic platform for building your portfolio. If you are looking to land a job as a developer, having a well organized GitHub profile filled with projects is a great way to show off your skills. Let's take this one step further. When you work on a project with others, you will often suggest changes via a pull request. A pull request is essentially your way of saying, hey, I have made some changes and I think they should be part of the main project. What do you think? Like that. To create a pull request, you make changes in your own branch or forked repository. Then submit your changes back to the original project for review. This project owner or maintainers can then review the changes, leave comments, and either approve or request further changes before merging the pull request. So let me show you how to create a pull request on GitHub. So first of all, go to your GitHub repository, click on the pull request tab, click new pull request and select the branch you want to merge. Add a title and a description, then click create pull request. I see some great questions coming in. So let me address a few of them. So what's the difference between git merge and git rebase? Great question. Both commands integrate changes from one branch into another, but they work differently. Git merge creates a merge commit. which preserves the history of both branches. But Git rebase, on the other hand, rewrites the commit history to make it look like all changes happened on the same branch. Rebase is cleaner in terms of history, but Merge is safer in collaborative environments since it doesn't rewrite history. So another question is, how do you resolve merge conflicts? When you merge two branches, sometimes Git can't automatically decide which changes to keep, and that's when a merge conflict happens. Git will make the conflicting areas in the file, and it's up to you to decide which version of the code to keep. Once you resolve the conflict, you can stage the file and complete the merge. So, before we wrap up, here are some quick tips if you are just starting out with Git and GitHub. Wait a minute, guys. So, yeah, commit often. Make small commits to clear messages. This helps track changes effectively and makes it easier to revert to an earlier state if needed. Wait a minute. Yeah, let's keep this slide. So use branches. Always work on a separate branch when adding new branches or fixing bugs. This keeps your main branch stable and pull regularly. When collaborating with others, make sure to pull the latest changes before you start working to avoid conflicts later on. So imagine you have a big art project at school. You are making a drawing. You want to save you want to save different versions of your drawing at different stages, like one with just the on outline, one with colors, and another one with final touches. You might keep copies of each version, right? But it can get confusing to keep track of all those versions. So Git is like a magical folder where you can save each version of your drawing without making a bunch of different files. So instead of having files called drawing underscore final one, drawing underscore final two, etc., Git helps you keep everything organized in one place. You can go back and see what changes you made, go back to older versions if you need to, and even work on new features like adding more details without messing up the final version. So now GitHub is like a school project board where you can share your drawing with friends. It's an online platform where everyone can look at your project, comment on it, and even help you improve it. If a friend wants to suggest some changes, they can take a copy of your project, they make the changes and then send it back to you, saying, "Hey, do you like what I did? If yes, you can add it to your original." So Git helps you save different versions of your work and keep everything neat and tidy. Helps you share that work with others, collaborate and collaborate and get feedback. It's like teamwork, but for projects that might be too big for just one person to handle. In short, Git helps you manage and organize your work, like different stages of a drawing. GitHub helps you share the work with others and work together on it. It's like a magical book and a project board combined. Cool, right? Yeah. Wait a minute, guys. So recap. Let me recap of key takeaways. Wait. So to wrap up, we have covered the basics of Git, how to manage your code with branches, and how GitHub makes collaboration easy. We also walk through how to push code to GitHub and create pull requests. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I encourage you to keep practicing and exploring Git and GitHub. These tools are invaluable in both personal and professional projects. And remember, the more you use them, the more comfortable you will get. So, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. So, finally, thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this stream, please like the video and share it to your friends. And see you next time and happy coding. Thank you so much.